I owe my soul to the company store.
Corporations are people, my friend.
Thank you, Johnny Cash. Thank you, coolest man alive. That's not. Oh, how's that? Yeah, that's pretty much the view of the world. Yesterday we had the first caller of the day was a very, very interesting guy who was wondering aloud, what would this country look like if the Republicans got their way on every single issue? And frankly, a lot of people had a lot of views about that. And then I said, one of the things that you can look at is, one of the places with very limited government and no regulation and a wild frontier mentality. Waziristan came screaming to mind, and of course Somalia comes screaming to mind because they don't have a government. And so I got a call from a guy in Missouri who was like, see, this is the problem. This is the problem. When you compare America to like Waziristan and Somalia, and I don't, people called up and, they were like, this guy is just crazy in that he doesn't understand that this is where the Republicans would like to take us. And in fact, we've been there. We've actually been there. We have had people working in the coal mines, let's say, on debt bondage or the truck system, which was a very simple script system where, the workers worked their asses off, by the way, almost, literally to the bone. This is where some of these phrases come from. Back-breaking work. Work my fingers to the bone. What do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt, right? This is exactly what the script system was, and this is what corporations wanted, and this is what they got. And I have a funny feeling that this is what they long for. This is what they miss. Workers are not paying cash under the script system. You're paid with company chit or script, which is non-transferable credit vouchers. It's a voucher system. You can exchange your voucher after, 16 hours of work only in the company store. And you live in the company-owned dormitory or the company-owned house. And your rent is automatically deducted from your paycheck. The only way we ever got rid of this, and it was all designed so workers could never save up enough money to go to a better job, to leave. You'd never have savings to be mobile. You'd never have savings to be able to purchase yourself transportation to another locality where you might try your hand at, being a grocer instead of a coal miner. That's what this was. It was impossible for you to have any cash savings this way. And the only way that we got out from under the corporate greed of the truck system or the company store system or the script system or the chit system or the voucher system, lovingly known as debt bondage, was when the United Mine Workers formed. Without the mine workers forming, without unions forming and fighting back against this and organizing the workers to sit down, not work, strike, demand that they get paid in real money, legal tender, this never would have changed. It never would have. And this is why in Wisconsin what is going on is so completely heinous, okay? The busting of the union is designed to allow the corporations to have their way with you. And their way with you is not a gentle way. Their way with you is the Chinese way. Their way with you is you live in the company factory, then you pay rent for living in the company factory. That rent will be deducted immediately from your paycheck before you ever receive it. And some people are going, well, this is I could just hear the conservative argument. Back in the day, I wish I had, the internet back in the day. I really do. I wish they had recorded their conversations back in the day. Because you could just imagine the Republicans on the radio back in the day saying things like, well, if a man is having his rent deducted from his paycheck, it's pre-tax. It's actually saving him money. I mean, I could just hear it. You're not free to own your own place. You're not free to save up to own your own place. You're not free to do what you want with it. But, it's saving you money because it's pre-tax deductions, from your paycheck for your company rent. But then you weren't even paid in money. So there goes that argument. You were paid in vouchers, the voucher system. And your voucher was only good at the store that the company owned. So if they wanted to jack up prices on you, then that's what they did. If they wanted you to imbibe more alcohol, or they wanted you to smoke more cigarettes, or they wanted you to, then they would make that cheaper so that that's what you would buy. Seriously. And the only way that that system in America ever came to an end was through collective union bargaining with the companies. And when the companies didn't want to come to the table, then we just made the table the floor, and we sat on it. That's all a man's got, is power in numbers and the ability to say no, like Nancy Reagan. Just say no. So there was a debate last night in Wisconsin, and by the way, Scott Walker, I told you if you watched this thing last night, what you would see is the stupid Tea Party people who are exactly Grover Norquist's wet dream for who should be governing the United States of America. And by that I mean, he said, not me, he said that he doesn't need anybody who's, ingenious or a thinker or knows how to think their way out of problem. He wants somebody with just barely enough working digits to pick up a pen and sign the legislation that he places in front of them. Now, one of the things that Scott Walker was asked about was the union busting thing. Right to work in Republican verbiage is a euphemism for union busting, meaning no unions will be recognized in this state. They call that right to work because these are the kind of people that will say, well, deducting a guy's rent from his paycheck is really a tax break. I'm telling you, it's all this crazy language that makes you think that somehow the state is giving you a right to work. You have a right to work. You don't need a right to work to be bestowed upon you by the state. Why would you say right to work when every person has the right to work, except for illegals? You're an American. You have a right to work. Period. So right to work means no union recognition at all. In any factory, in any shop, in any organization, no union recognition. So last night, Scott Walker was asked whether or not he would, sign a bill that made Wisconsin one of the original collective bargaining states, one of the original states that invented the idea, the concept of unions. Asked him if he would make Wisconsin a right-to-work state. Notice how he doesn't answer.
But when people have asked you point blank, would you veto a right-to-work piece of legislation that came to your desk, what's your response? Would you veto it?
And I've said it's not going to get there. And the reason why...
would you veto it if it got there?
I've said it's not going to get there. You're asking a hypothetical. And the reason I've said that is because the bottom line is I saw what happened over the last year and a half. And I don't want to repeat that same discussion. I don't want to repeat that same debate. I think most people in the state, Democrat and Republican alike, want to move on and move forward.
What does that mean? I don't want to answer that question. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to have anything to do with that question. I'm here to make no mistakes. That's what I'm here for. I have $30 million backing me up, and if I fall into $30 million of cash to break my fall. So I don't want to mess anything up. My opponent, Mr. Barrett, was only able to raise, 1/30th of what I was able to raise. I have $30 million. He's got nothing, and frankly, I like it like this. So my goal here tonight is to step in nothing, is to say nothing, is to not indicate to you whether or not I believe union busting is the way for Wisconsin to go, which is a fair question. Didn't want to answer the question. Now, what's really interesting is there is this little, bad audio tape of Diane Hendricks, who's a roofing billionaire, okay? No problem. She's a roofer, made billions, doing roofing. Okay, good for her. American dream realized. But it's not enough for Diane. Diane wants to bust the unions. Period. And she had a recorded conversation with Scott Walker where she says, tell me what I can do to help you bust these unions. Tell me what I can do for you to make Wisconsin a right-to-work state.
Any chance we'll ever get to be a completely red state and work on these unions?
Oh, yeah.
And become a right-to-work?
Well, in fact, the big thing...
What can we do to help you?
Well, we're going to start in a couple of weeks with our budget adjustment bill. The first step is... we're going to deal with collective bargaining for all public employee unions.
Right.
Because you divide and conquer.
Divide and conquer. The first thing we have to do is introduce a budget bill, and then in that budget bill, we'll make Wisconsin a right-to-work state. I love it. She's a vixen, that one. She's a real vixen. What can I do to help you? Well, stop flirting with me. You're making me nervous, but I got this, okay? I'll make you a right-to-work state. I will relieve you of having to pay a roofer a decent wage for getting up on somebody's roof. I will. I'll do it. She turned around then and gave him $500,000. That's normal. I know many women who give Scott Walker $500,000. What can I do for you? Happens all the time in your life, doesn't it? A woman walks up to you and says, what can I do for you? You know, you're an average-looking schmo like he is. And this, billionaires, not a bad-looking woman either, walks up to you and goes, what can I do for you? Happens every day. Then you say 3 sentences to her, right to work state, divide and conquer, don't worry, I got this. And the next thing, she gives you $500,000. Happens all the time. Right? 19 after.
Randy Rhodes.
More woman than you can handle. But, wanna try? 866-87-RANDY. This is the Randy Rhodes Show.
KRXA 540. Progressive talk for Monterey, Salinas, and Santa Cruz. Visit our website at krxa540.com.